Should we talk to you?
Yes, sure.
What is your name?
Konstantin Igorevich Vanin.
Date of birth?
December 22nd, 1988.
Where are you from?
From the city of Slavyansk.
Do you give your voluntary consent for the publication of our conversation?
Yes.
What were you convicted of and for how long?
I was sentenced to 8 years under Article 114, Section 2, Part 3.
Something else.
Well, even prior to that, on September 1st, a search was conducted in my apartment. They seized and discovered 18 rounds of ammunition and a VOG grenade launcher. Well, according to this article, I was given a 1-year suspended sentence. I cooperated with the investigation. Indeed, I found all these, let's say, spoils of war at the training ground. I had no intention of using them for their intended purpose. They were on my shelves solely as souvenirs.
Did you find a weapon at the training ground?
No, there was no gun.
What happened?
18 rounds.
Just cartridges?
Yes.
Are you a physics teacher?
Yes.
Where did you teach?
At Malinovskaya Secondary School. This is a rural school.
How long?
The last training lasted 6 months.
Have you engaged in ideological discussions with your students?
No way.
About politics?
No. I absolutely did not have any conversations with anyone about politics.
It just happens.
No.
So, in the essence of your accusation, what can you say? Do you agree or not?
I, of course, disagree with the accusation, as I did not perform the actions attributed to me.
At all?
No changes needed.
May I see your file?
Certainly.
Yes?
Yes.
Sire, we are discussing cartridges, specifically 16 of them. It's noted that these cartridges were seized. You have confessed to your guilt here.
Certainly.
Is this a separate statement about the cartridges, but a different one for that article? So, did you plead guilty?
Yes.
Are you saying that you didn't commit these actions?
We essentially struck a deal with the intelligence agencies, and that's all.
Well, in that case, you should assert that the special services somehow coerced you. A person needs to somehow justify the fact that they confessed to a crime they supposedly did not commit.
Well, yes.
And?
Let's just say there was an agreement between us.
A pact?
Yes, we agreed.
I address the audience. If it suddenly appears to you that they simply want you to consent to an 8-year prison sentence, then that's a poor agreement. I'm being straightforward about this. I don't necessarily believe that it was just a transaction, but it's strange. I suppose there's no sense in questioning your motives for your actions if you're going to deny them.
Yes.
Then let's discuss some general topics. Who does Crimea belong to?
Crimea? De facto or de jure?
De facto.
De facto? Well, the currency used there is the Russian ruble, and the flag is Russian. The license plates on the cars are Russian. The people hold Russian citizenship, and their passports are also Russian.
Does everyone have a Russian passport? Many Ukrainian passports have been kept.
Most of the people I spoke with possess Russian passports. Legally, Crimea is Ukrainian.
I understand. And from a moral standpoint?
From a moral perspective, I agreed with the viewpoint that Crimea belongs to the Crimeans, as one individual stated. The people voiced their stance.
This person has already retracted this statement. He holds an unequivocally pro-Ukrainian stance. Crimea is undeniably Ukrainian. He supports Ukraine and humorously criticizes Russians whenever he can. Did you mean Osip?
No, I think Morgenstern said that.
This is a highly authoritative opinion for Ukrainians. Every Ukrainian is obligated to heed what Morgenstern said on this matter.
He said a phrase that I liked, and I think that it is essentially correct.
Do you support the annexation of Crimea?
I'm undecided about this.
Tell me.
On the one hand, yes, certainly. But on the other hand, no. Why not? Because this is annexation. This is the deployment of troops. It is the destabilization of Ukraine. I am Ukrainian. I am solely a citizen of Ukraine, and in my view, this is a loss of territory, an annexation by the Russians. Therefore, to me, it is unjust. This pertains to the moral aspect of the matter. Conversely, I visited Crimea frequently when it was still a part of Ukraine. From about 3 years of age to 13 years of age. I spent my childhood summers in Crimea. It's a fantastic resort with wonderful people. Everything is good. Everything is fine. However, I haven't visited Crimea for a long time. In 2014, during the time of Maidan, when our city was already filled with militia, I prepared myself and traveled to Crimea. I stayed there for 5 years. Over the course of 5 years, I have witnessed truly significant changes in terms of infrastructure improvement, quality of life enhancement, and in all other aspects.
So, did the significant influx of tourists make everyone feel better and more comfortable?
The tourist scenario is also intricate. While Crimea was part of Ukraine, it was open to all, reflecting the Ukrainian living standards. However, after its incorporation into Russia, the improved living standards made it less affordable for many to visit, particularly Ukrainians whose average income hasn't seen much growth. Conversely, for Russians, it has turned into a more appealing vacation spot.
What do you mean by improving the standard of living?
Salaries and, for instance, purchasing power.
Has the purchasing power significantly increased?
Well, as far as I know, yes.
How has it manifested?
The correlation between price and salary.
Yes?
Yes. The residents of Crimea had specific salaries. However, with the change in government and currency, salaries and prices have naturally undergone relative changes. The salaries were reasonable. The standard of living has improved. I'm not just saying this for myself. I'm speaking on behalf of the people I interacted with, lived with, and was directly in contact with in Crimea. These are my acquaintances, my friends.
People who used to travel to Crimea?
No, the residents themselves have directly benefited. Taxes have been reduced, and the cost of utilities has decreased.
The truth is, many people in Crimea relied heavily on tourism and visitors for their livelihood.
I visited the city of Simferopol. This is a city that isn't heavily reliant on tourism. It has its own, so to speak, infrastructure. Yes, coastal cities do depend on tourism. Yalta, Alushta. In other words, resort towns that are directly dependent on the season.
So, have some areas in Crimea improved while others have deteriorated?
Naturally.
Did the situation worsen in tourist towns where the locals' purchasing power depended on tourism?
In general, yes.
However, in large cities like Simferopol, which are not reliant on tourism, conditions have improved. Wages have increased, utility costs have decreased, and people have begun to afford more purchases.
Yes.
I understand you. Now I'll switch to the Russian radio. Hello, my name is Daria. I live in Yalta, and I've decided to share my impressions with you. I'm a local. It's a tough life, guys, and there's nothing we can do about it. The truth is that the 2014 voting was a complete sham. Nobody went to vote. I'm telling you this as a local resident. We've been here since 1928. Luckily, I was living in St. Petersburg before the pandemic hit, and I've now been in Yalta for a year. I must say the situation here is quite disordered, with rampant looting going on. Everyone is unhappy. I can't say that I know anyone who would claim to be satisfied.
Excuse me, could we go back to the beginning? Did you vote back in 2014?
No, certainly none of the Yalta residents went to vote. Those who worked at the polling stations, these girls who were looking to earn some money, they expressed the sentiment that it was all a sham.
Good morning.
Hello, my name is Sasha.
Sasha, where are you from?
I am a resident of Ekaterinburg, but I have been living in Crimea for 5 years with my daughter's family. I used to visit Crimea regularly for about 20 years, so I'm quite familiar with the realities there.
Which Crimea is superior, Ukrainian or Russian? You are now live on air.
Undoubtedly, Crimea is better under Ukraine. I will explain this shortly.
Good morning.
Good afternoon. I'm Ruslan from Kerch, Crimea.
Hello, Kerch.
Good afternoon. I'm viewing your comparative analysis program. Yes, one of the methods to understand reality is through comparison. You are inquiring whether life has improved or deteriorated. You have no idea how bad life has become.
This is echo of Moscow. Russia. Even Poklonskaya discusses the fact that the hospitals have not improved, but rather deteriorated, particularly in terms of provision. And many other aspects have indeed worsened in Crimea. So, there are differing views on the standard of living in Crimea. However, as a Ukrainian, you believe that it's wrong from every perspective, both morally and legally. Is the annexation of Crimea incorrect?
Yes.
Did you attempt to seek employment in any other Ukrainian city, apart from Slavyansk, before you moved to Crimea?
At that time in Kiev, I had friends who informed me that job opportunities would become scarce in the near future. It was just after the Maidan.
So, you're responsible for installing internet cables, right? Am I understanding your job correctly?
Yes.
This work was in demand before 2014, during 2014, and after 2014.
Yes, I know it's a high-demand job.
The installers never stop working. Have you experienced it yourself, or just heard someone's opinion?
I'm telling you that I left when the militia was already in Sloviansk. I tried to find a place where I would have at least some acquaintances, so that I could work and live peacefully and protect myself.
I see.
Perhaps if I had been a bit older, it wouldn't have been so challenging for me to relocate to a different city without any acquaintances, connections, and so forth. But at that time, I needed some sort of support.
How old were you then? What's up, roughly?
Well, about 25 years.
25. What is your marital status?
I'm not married and I have no children.
I see. Getting back to the topic of Crimea, how long were you employed there? Can you tell me about your general responsibilities or activities there?
First, I spent a season working in children's health camps. After that, I secured a job at a paintball club. That is, the season had ended, and I returned home.
Slavyansk?
Yeah, it was work-related.
Was Gherkin driven away at that point?
Yes, it was exactly a month after I left. I came back to the city, asked my friends about their work situation, and there was absolutely nothing. However, at that time, I was offered a job as a paintball instructor in Simferopol. And that was it. It was mostly seasonal work. Well, I didn't complain about the salary. I always had work. I switched jobs from time to time, because again, they were seasonal positions. And I visited Yalta. In other words, I toured around Crimea. It was an enjoyable time for me, especially because I was traveling.
How long did it last?
5 years.
You've been a paintball instructor for 5 years, excluding your first year?
Yeah, about 4 years.
First the camp job and then the paintball job?
Yes.
What happened next?
Well, then I returned home, to Slavyansk. I just wanted to go home. I arrived in Slavyansk. Then I was offered a job in Moscow. I went there for a month and came back. Then I was offered a job in Poland. I went to Poland for a couple of months.
What did you do in Moscow and in Poland?
In Moscow, I was offered a position to manage a newly established Italian pizzeria. Prior to this, I held various jobs. I have experience as a waiter, bartender, and host. In other words, I generally have good rapport with people.
What's wrong with this job? Or did you upset someone else?
No, let's just say it was a disagreement with a superior.
Have you had a Ukrainian passport all this time?
Yes.
Were you treated normally with a Ukrainian passport?
Yes. Every 3 months I crossed the border. Because,
Wasn't there some sort of law prohibiting us from going there? Or did it not impact you at all?
well, I guess so, but,
And didn't anyone tell you anything?
I was questioned twice at the checkpoint. They asked when I had left. I told them it was a couple of weeks ago. They asked if I was aware that I had to remain within Ukrainian territory for 90 days as well. Well, the first time I was not informed. They wagged their finger at me and warned me not to make the same mistake next time.
Is this from the Ukrainian side?
No, in Russia.
Did anyone from the Ukrainian side say anything to you?
No, it's nothing.
In what year was your last trip to Moscow?
To Moscow?
Yes.
In 2019.
So, was it okay to go there without any problem? And what about Poland?
I performed facade insulation there for 2 months.
Didn't it work out? Didn't you like it?
Overall, it was a typical job with a standard income. However, we were informed that there would be no work for a while due to poor weather and lack of orders, so everyone left. After that, I ended up in Slavyansk.
And then you started teaching?
No, I began my teaching career in early 2022. Until that time, I was working from home. You could say I was self-employed.
You didn't do anything?
No, I've also been working, specifically in the cryptocurrency industry. Security systems, cybersecurity. The work was primarily conducted online.
In cybersecurity, as far as I'm aware, people earn a decent income.
Yes.
Why did you suddenly decide to become a teacher?
Indeed, it was a job close to my heart. I mean, working with computer systems is one thing, but interacting with children, with people, in a team, well, that's something else.
Additionally, social guarantees from the state.
Well,
Vacation and experience.
honestly, I hadn't really looked at it that way.
Just to socialize.
Yes.
What made the Ukrainian security service suspect you? I can't seem to locate the context.
Around November 11th. I had realized earlier that the city wasn't particularly peaceful, and I really had nothing to do here. Absolutely. I started abusing alcohol.
It happens.
I also began encountering issues with my online work because the Donetsk and Luhansk regions were, to put it mildly, blacklisted. So I decided to move to Crimea. I had to cross the contact line, and I chose to do it in Bakhmut. There, I was apprehended by counterintelligence and subsequently detained.
In essence, you fled from the war.
In a broad sense, yes.
You escaped to a territory under the control of occupation authorities from the actions of those very same occupation authorities. Do you condemn Russia for its aggression towards Ukraine?
On the one hand, yes. On the other hand, no.
No?
because it's not exactly a war between Russia and Ukraine. Well, this is, again, my perspective, my interpretation, my comprehension of all this.
Whose war is this?
Indeed, a geopolitical war is unfolding here, representing the clash of interests between Western civilization and Russia.
Did someone from the West provoke Putin to launch a missile attack on Ukraine?
In general, yes.
How?
Massive arms deliveries to Ukraine. Once again, expansion of NATO.
What can you cite as specific instances of massive arms shipments, or Ukraine moving closer to NATO prior to a full-scale Russian invasion?
Javelin shipments, anti-tank weapon shipments, military training.
Okay,
In the European Union,
okay.
as well as agreements to join NATO and the European Union.
Who wanted to join the NATO bloc?
Well, they haven't agreed yet, but Ukraine has submitted an application.
So what?
As far as I know.
So let's do the math. You are correct about Javelin. By the way, did you know that in this agreement for the supply of Javelin, it was stated that they are not to be used in Donbass, in the eastern part of Ukraine?
No, I don't. I'm aware that there were arms shipments.
Okay, so Javelin. No, there were some supplies, but those supplies were, well, minuscule.
Well, I can't argue with you. I haven't really been following this whole thing.
I'm not trying to argue with you, but you just mentioned massive arms deliveries to Ukraine. Yet you only referred to the Javelins. Let's assume there were 10 of them.
I just know that there were arms shipments. People were being trained and so on.
So we could have attacked first? That's the theory. So, here's a comparison of the military statistics, detailing what Ukraine has versus what Russia has. You can read and see what we should have attacked with, and most importantly, the massive arms shipments. Out of all these statistics, 99% of the weapons that Ukraine had were Ukrainian-made. You can recite our helicopters and theirs, our airplanes and theirs, our boats and theirs. Well, these are actual statistics. You can verify them. Where are the large-scale arms shipments? Show me a provocation based on those statistics. Special purpose aviation. We have 5 units. Russia has 132 units. I believe we've addressed the issue of massive arms shipments. That is, what you perceived as massive arms deliveries was merely Ukraine's regular desire to procure some weapons. However, in comparison to Russia, it was insignificant.
Russian language.
Protection of the Russian-speaking community. Who has violated your rights due to the Russian language, and how has it manifested?
For instance, in Lviv,
Uh-huh.
the local population criticized for not communicating and not speaking in Russian.
When were you in Lviv?
In 2013,
What were your actions inside?
we went out with the school kids to see the sights.
A field trip?
Yeah, school field trip.
How long did you stay in Lviv?
About a week.
How many times a week do you experience humiliation, and in what manner?
Well, a couple of times. Once was in the cafeteria.
What did they tell you?
A schoolgirl asked for buckwheat and goulash, so she was served buckwheat and goulash, and then she inquired if she could have some gravy. She was informed that there was no gravy available.
Okay.
We were trailing this girl, but when we spoke in Ukrainian, we were offered sauce. And also, Somewhere on the street. That's amusing. Yes, I concur. And somewhere on the street, we were called names.
Is that it?
Yes.
Are you suggesting that Russia should launch an all-out attack on Ukraine? Obliterating entire cities? Are you serious? I asked you if you endorsed Russian aggression, and you responded on one hand, no.
Sure.
Your arguments about massive arms supplies, NATO expansion, provocation by Western countries, and protection of Russian speakers are nonsensical. Was it difficult for you to order gravy in Ukrainian in Lviv?
No, I told you it's fine.
Well, ask the other side to trade with you. That's what you want, isn't it?
Yes.
That's the main purpose of our conversation.
Yes.
All of this is just rhetoric. You've pointed out the challenges Russian speakers encounter. Incidentally, Putin pledged to safeguard individuals like you who are supposedly at a disadvantage, such as not receiving certain benefits. Contact us and we will pick you up.
Take me away.
It's funny, isn't it?
I don't know.
Do you know anyone in Russia?
Yes.
Apart from friends, do you have any relatives?
Some distant relatives.
Generally, I understand that you have many friends in Russia who could advocate for you. Perhaps write to someone to get you recognized.
My relatives moved to Belgorod.
Here we go.
The war began.
They will contact someone to take you away from here.
Yes.
Well, I would just like this to have some practical result. Because we are prepared to hand you over at any moment and retrieve our man. Our people, who are absolutely innocent, are being held there. They have done nothing wrong. They merely left Mariupol through the so-called Green Corridor, a route that was only given to these people one way, without the right to choose. They are now in jail simply because they refuse to accept a Russian passport and participate in Russian propaganda. And we would gladly exchange any one of these men for you today or tomorrow. Is there anything else you would like to add?
No.
Well, that's it then. Do you voluntarily consent to the recording and publication of our interview?
I agree.
Okay.
Alexander Sergeyevich Radchenko was born on October 25, 1973, in Kramatorsk.
What were you convicted for and how long was your sentence?
114.2, Part 3. I'm addicted to texting. In the Telegram app.
How many years?
8 and 3.
8 and 3. What was the correspondence about?
I was posed with provocative questions. I responded to them. The conversation then ceased, and I was dismissed. I have been briefed on these positions. And they asked me to confirm it for them. How should I put it? I said that, but I did not confirm the position. It's such a complicated situation out there. They inquired about a specific settlement, to which I clarified that we don't have that particular settlement, but we do have 2 others. However, in every settlement surrounding the city, there is always at least one school. That's it. I provided the address from Google, school address, street, house number. I received a picture of this school from Google Maps. They asked me, "Is this her?" I said, "Yes, that's her. That's it."
Who do you think you've been corresponding with?
With the channel administrator.
What was the name of that channel?
Donbass Partisan.
Is it a pro-Russian channel or not?
It is not pro-Russian just because the channel is managed by a local resident.
Well, whose side was he on?
And the canal, he simply drove around and took photos of where the shells had fallen.
Do you understand that when someone drives a car and takes pictures of where missiles land, they are inadvertently aiding enemy fire?
Locations.
Where the shell struck.
How does he stoke the fire?
For instance, a projectile hit point B, which is a kindergarten or in its vicinity. He took a picture of the place and sent it to them. So the person firing understands that their shots land either where they intend or close to their intended target.
It's a philosophical question.
Is that a philosophical question?
We can talk endlessly.
Not a philosophical question.
Satellite images, GPS devices,
The Russians...
both sides. So adjusting the firing is such a thing.
All right. I'm not going to dispute with you here or prove anything, in general.
He did it. I didn't take a picture.
Could you share your opinion? Do you support Russian aggression?
I do not support Russian aggression and the partition of Ukraine.
Do you condemn Russian aggression?
I don't care at all. I am not involved with either one.
The Russians are launching missile attacks on Ukraine. Is that what you're condemning?
And what happens when Ukraine shoots at itself?
After the Russians entered there? Yes, indeed.
What about Donetsk? Donetsk at all?
The Russians arrived and the war started.
Have the Russians been there since 2014? Is this normal?
No, they shouldn't have come and the war wouldn't have started. So, you don't generally condemn Russia's missile strikes on Ukraine?
I won't pass judgment on this matter.
I see. A prisoner of war exchange.
POW exchanges, yes, of course.
Contact the other party, have them pick you up. If you don't even condemn their missile strikes on a neighboring country, then you're certainly their ally.
They know whom to pick up.
They don't.
Our listings have been active for more than 6 months now.
Yes, it's true.
Well, so they know who to pick up, where to pick up, and when to pick up.
They accept Brazilians, they don't accept you. They took that guy, Sawara.
I don't know.
No, they're being taken away. They don't need you.
Then we are not needed. Have a nice day.
Have a nice day. How can that be? What, can you be prosecuted for expressing an opinion?
I'm uncertain how to convey this to you.
You implied that this is the case.
Yes, of course. Do you think there's something different going on here? Flip it over. It's the same thing here.
But they attacked us.
We are not acknowledging that Ukraine was attacked. Regarding the operations of the special services.
I take that into consideration.
Well, that's the whole point. As usual, you and I will have a heated discussion.
Wait, are you voluntarily agreeing to the recording and publication of our video?
Yeah. I probably won't answer all the questions.
You're not required to answer all questions. Full name, where are you from?
Alexei Vladimirovich Karakash, from the village of Velika Novosilovka.
If you could sit a little closer, yes. To the table, yes. Whatever makes you feel comfortable.
No problem.
Of what were you convicted and for how long?
Article 258, Part 1, Section 3, 9 years.
Uh-huh. What does this article mean?
The article discusses terrorism. In general, an entire paragraph. Cooperation with the DNR. There's an entire paragraph about it.
You can drink water whenever you want.
Thanks, I got it.
If necessary.
I have water.
So is the charge legitimate?
Well, somewhat, partially somehow.
Can we read what was there?
For publication, no. I know how to do it in such a way that no questions will be asked. I don't want to. Just like that.
Well, I just skimmed through. You've got over a dozen cases there. Serious story?
Well, that's what the prosecutor says. Why is that?
This is what I wanted you to read so you could discern. This is true and this is not. Why are you here?
Well, make legal calls to the other side.
Okay.
Yes, it's legal. However, our region has been divided for 8 years, and we have many friends and relatives there. Colleagues, I also had a business there.
You mean you had calls with the other party, during which you discussed nothing significant, correct?
Well, when we discuss life, inevitably, we also touch upon politics. Thus, everything is presented here in its final form, for the record, so to speak.
That's understandable. No. The indictment specifically addresses target designation. Specifically military targets. Precise geolocations.
No. Once again, we're not going to speak on camera. I'm not going to speak on camera.
I was wondering if we could possibly discuss the case. If not...
I'm just telling you.
About ships navigating the vast expanse. No, I'm not interested.
I'm telling it like it is.
There are moments when you look and think, yeah, it's a little confusing. But when I reviewed your case, I thought, well, even if you add 20% here, 80 is enough. Even if 60 is marked here, 40 is sufficient.
That's your opinion.
Yes.
I think differently.
That's right. Didn't you say so?
There are no questions. We're having a discussion.
That's it. Essentially, if you are unwilling or unable to discuss the case. So, you're interested in the prisoner swap?
Yes, of course. This has been written about 250 times. I'm somewhere on the list.
You and I have a problem. I've been working with these prisoners for 3 months now. And for some reason, no one has been transferred yet. And this is based on the information that is available about you. Not only is it officially in the public domain, we're already recording the video so you can express your opinion and be heard. And no one is being taken away now. They have our prisoners. We only learn about our people being in one place or another from bits and pieces of information. So, for instance, people were evacuated from Mariupol, correct? The so-called Green Corridor. The Green Corridor is one way only. They don't want to accept Russian passports. They don't want to collaborate with Russian propaganda. I don't know what else we can do to get Russia to start repatriating Ukrainian POWs.
Well, what can I tell you? I'm just here in a way.
But you're their man, aren't you?
What does that have to do with it?
I'm just asking.
I am a resident of Velika Novoselovka, Donetsk region.
No, do you have a Russian mindset?
Mentally, yes. I have many friends and relatives there.
Do you even support Russia?
We've had this discussion. I'm rooting for peace. I'm in favor of peace. You and I have discussed this.
How can you advocate for peace and assist with adjustments?
Well, you're starting to unravel the situation again.
If we don't discuss the matter at hand, we could converse for another hour without achieving anything.
Yes, it won't accomplish anything.
You may argue that you are for peace, but you won't discuss the judgment. And I have my own interpretation. And your opinion.
Yes.
So let's not torment each other with this discussion, as it won't yield any constructive outcome. A prisoner of war exchange?
Yes.
Should we talk to you?
Yeah, okay.
Do you willingly give your consent for the recording and publication of our video?
Yes.
Introduce yourself. What's your name?
Alexander Yurevich Klyusov.
Date of birth?
June 29th, 1996.
Where are you from?
Liman, Donetsk region.
Lyman. What article?
Section 111, first part, clause 7.
Treason?
Yes, as if I was reporting military positions.
And you didn't do this?
There's an appeal to the Supreme Court.
Has the verdict already come into effect?
The verdict was delivered, but the experts did not thoroughly examine all aspects.
What is your stance? Did you do it or not?
No.
I didn't. The sentence is 15 years. May I read your sentence?
The verdict is in there.
I have a sentence.
You can.
I'm just asking if it's readable or not. Tell us about yourself first. Your family, your job. What have you been doing?
No family. I mean, I have my parents, but I don't have a family of my own. No wife. I worked in a bakery. I worked as a boiler room operator and a baker. In short, I mean, at the factory. The Chaika factory was located in Liman.
Have you been dissatisfied with something in your life?
It's okay.
Everything was fine. Do you support the pro-Russian stance?
Not really.
Is Crimea Ukrainian?
Well, legally, yes.
What are your thoughts on Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine?
It didn't happen the way it was supposed to.
Is something wrong? Are you managing the situation? There is indeed a clear difference between slightly incorrect, quite wrong, and absolutely incorrect. Is it slightly incorrect or completely wrong?
I can't answer that question.
All right. What exactly do you condemn about Russian aggression? About the Russian invasion? I'm talking about a full-scale invasion of Ukraine.
Civilians are dying on both sides.
Okay.
I don't like it. There's too much destruction.
What do you mean by the other side? Are you referring to peaceful people on the other side?
I mean, people are suffering on both sides, in both Ukraine and Russia.
Are the hostilities confined only to Ukrainian territory? But surely, drones have been flying there.
We see on the news that drones are launching attacks.
Since the 24th, the death toll in Ukraine has escalated into the hundreds, thousands, and even tens of thousands, far surpassing the number of injuries. How would you react if a Russian missile hit the house where your loved ones live?
Of course, negatively. But where is the assurance that a Ukrainian missile won't hit my house? That year, I was in Lyman and witnessed what was happening there.
Both sides?
Yes.
Do you understand that the root cause of the conflict is, in fact, the Russian invasion?
We need to dig a little deeper.
Let's do it.
2014, the beginning.
Yes, let's start with 2014. What do you think about that?
There's been a coup d'etat.
If I accept without dispute what you're saying about some kind of coup d'etat, what right does Russia have to interfere in Ukraine's internal affairs?
That doesn't give them the right.
Why are we discussing a coup d'etat? Perhaps we need to look elsewhere. Let's think. No ideas, huh? Let's see what you're being accused of. Based on what you're saying, it's not very clear. You passed on the information. The date is clearly stated, the time is clearly stated. There's a roadblock in Lyman.
I guess.
You denied it.
I was told to say that. You don't know how the SBU operates?
Have you pleaded guilty?
In court, I stated that I didn't admit it because the examination wasn't conducted as it should have been. You need to check from which device it was done. At first, I couldn't log into this account without knowing the password. The SBU recovered the password, and I got an alert on my phone from Odnoklasniki about the password reset. The correspondence has already taken place. This is not my correspondence, as I did not have access to that account.
What are you trying to say?
I haven't logged into Odnoklasniki for 2 years.
Isn't this your correspondence?
Yes.
Isn't it you? You just didn't visit the site. Was there any correspondence?
There was a conversation.
Disclosure of troop locations. How many cases? Can you tell me how many instances?
It was either 4 or 5.
That's both staff and obstacles. There's no need to continue reading if you insist that the correspondence sent from your account was not authored by you. Do you know what this is about? Of course, I don't fully understand how it works. But if you want to access your account, that's always the case. A text message is coming in.
No, that didn't happen there. That is...
If you've forgotten your password.
That's right.
A text message is coming in.
But I knew him before that.
What other ways can someone access your account?
I requested the court to examine the login records. Which device was used to log into the account? I have a Lenovo laptop, and I used it for logging in. Also, on June 6th, I logged in using my phone. Before this, I had no idea which device was used for access.
Theoretically, let's say you've connected through a VPN from a different device in the Netherlands.
I didn't have any other device, only a tablet. I don't know if it was confiscated. There's nothing in the file about it. I don't know.
I understand your standpoint, the overall perspective. I also understand your position on the matter. If you have anything to add, please return to our initial conversation.
There's nothing to add.
Do you want a prisoner exchange?
Yes.
The exchange of prisoners of war is a bilateral matter. We are prepared to proceed with the exchange.
Uh-huh.
We want to support our fellow Ukrainians who believe that Crimea, despite being inhabited by Crimeans, rightfully belongs to Ukraine.
Crimea belongs to them.
Oh, and there's one more thing. Crimea belongs to Ukraine. Kiev, Dnipro, Kharkiv, Odessa, Kolomia, Drohobych, and Lviv are all cities located in Ukraine.
I understand.
Despite the fact that Lviv also belongs to the Lvivians. Well, I mean, you're altering concepts.
Russia has its own laws.
Why, as a Ukrainian, are you even concerned about the laws in Russia? Who ordered the special operation?
Vladimir Vladimirovich.
Vladimirovich, that's correct. Did the special operation involve tanks advancing and missiles being launched?
Yeah.
Putin issued an order to launch missiles at a foreign country, resulting in civilian casualties. Tanks advanced towards the capital of a foreign country. You see?
Russia is under attack right now.
Indeed. I'll keep returning to the root cause. What's the reason? Is it Putin's orders? Hopefully there will be more things like this.
Even if there was no directive from the president.
Even if there was no decree. Just like that?
Yes.
I don't see the point of continuing this conversation. You would say, take me away and all that.
A trade?
Yes.
I want a prisoner exchange.
I'm Sergei Pavlovich Zaporozhets. Born November 6, 1973. I am a resident of Kramatorsk-Donetsk region.
An article?
Article 258, Part 3.
The sentence of imprisonment.
Note 3. Part 1. An 11-year term. What's next?
An exchange?
Please pick me up for a prisoner exchange.
Do you give voluntary consent to publish this video?
I agree.
Surname, given name, middle name, date. Where are you from?
Vladimir Anatolievich Antipov. I was born on August 10th, 1986 in Lugansk.
Article, prison sentence?
Article 258, 8 years. Article 258. Article 260.
260?
Illegal armed groups.
258?
Terrorism.
Are both articles about the same incident?
Yes.
What's that?
My service in the armed forces of the LPR began in the summer of 2014.
Did you reside there and participate in unlawful armed groups?
Yes.
Why?
Well, let's say, disagreement with the outcomes of the Maidan.
The outcomes of the Maidan? What do you object to?
An unconstitutional coup d'etat. The fact that the army was deployed against us, against peaceful protests, to suppress them.
What kind of peaceful protests were these that the army was deployed against?
When people arrived at the administrative building, a rally had already been taking place there for weeks. People demanded that a representative from the Ukrainian government come out and clarify the ongoing situation in the country. No one ever came out. When people, let's say, entered the administrative building, it was vacant. The entire leadership representing Ukraine was already in Kiev at that time. You know, for some reason, not a single shell fell on Cherkasy, Lviv, or Kiev in 2014.
You know, in neither Cherkasy, Lviv, nor Kiev did anyone take down Ukrainian flags and replace them with Russian ones. And I can show you how it unfolded in the Luhansk and Donetsk regions.
After what massive event?
There's something you don't understand. What you don't realize is, it doesn't matter what came before. I can disagree with a lot of things. However, the last thing a person who recognizes himself as Ukrainian and acknowledges that he lives in Ukraine would do is, the last thing he'll do is raise his country's flag. It doesn't matter what happened at Maidan. It happened in our country.
Important.
He will lower and hoist the flag of a foreign country. This is where the real problems begin. Everything prior to this was an internal conflict.
We had a civil war until February 24th.
Do you want to see Russian machinery? Speak with a tank operator from Rostov.
Yes, Russia assisted us.
What kind of civil war is it if Grad's, Buk, Sonsipak and Pinocchio systems are being deployed here?
Okay.
Tanks!
In 2014, I often saw NATO uniforms at the front lines as well.
So what?
Well, like, no one's interfering, right?
Are we having a civil war?
Yes, we are in a civil war. One side was receiving assistance from the West. The opposing side received aid from Russia. I had a lot of Russian co-workers.
Which part of Ukraine has the West annexed? Please provide the question that needs to be answered.
Ukraine and the government.
Is it because you think so?
Well, that's my opinion.
Well, see, that's your opinion. Russia did annex Crimea. This is a fact acknowledged by the Russian side. This is true. It's not without reason.
Following the results of the referendum, which...
Referendums are not conducted under duress, and matters of territorial integrity are resolved only through a nationwide Ukrainian referendum. Someone tricked you. It's a global show.
Well, then you and I have different views. It's unfortunate that there are so many people in this country who simply aren't permitted to express their opinions freely. This is very risky and punishable. So I suggest we stop.
Opinions can be expressed as long as your opinion does not contradict
Legal.
the freedom in any democratic country. Is constrained by its laws.
They introduced the 540th article of the Criminal Code of Ukraine for denying Russian aggression and so on, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember the number.
You agree that the article exists. Essentially, anyone who voices an opinion contrary to the official stance of the Ukrainian government can be prosecuted under this article.
Who supports the Russian invasion?
What is your opinion on the total prohibition of Russian language content in Ukraine?
After the invasion?
Even before.
It's nothing like that.
Why not? The Russian language has been completely removed from broadcasting. I mean, Russian language, Russian programs.
There were limitations.
It was.
I support this.
What is contained in the Constitution of Ukraine? I respect that.
What?
All minorities, all national minorities have the right to access information, to receive education in their native language.
Find the Constitution of Ukraine on Google. Please find the information. Find the information where it states that...
Well, I don't remember the article now. I obtained this information from a Ukrainian legal encyclopedia.
The same story as with the refugees. If you are influenced by pro-Russian narratives or views, you perceive them everywhere. I'll show you, or rather, explain to you what it says. Every language has the right to evolve, and the state supports the growth of any language. The official language is Ukrainian. What's the contradiction here?
As a member of a national minority, it is my right to receive information in my native language.
Police, there are local channels.
They've been shut down. It turns out that in 2020, 3 opposition TV channels were shut down by a single decree.
Channels that supported Russian aggression?
So
was it the language or was it the fact that they endorsed aggression?
This is an alternative point of view.
A viewpoint endorsing Russian aggression?
Alternative viewpoint?
Let's not be hypocritical. Did they support the annexation of Crimea? Did they support it?
They were expressing an opinion that has a right to exist.
No. Views on secession and separatism, an opinion that is punishable under the criminal code, can still be expressed. But it carries the appropriate legal consequences, such as the closure of the channel.
I agree. Mr. Tihipko arrived at our facility to negotiate with protesters who had taken over the SBU building in the Luhansk region. The protesters have set demands. We will vacate the building in return for amnesty from Ukraine and a halt to criminal prosecution.
You see,
Kyiv responded differently.
You see, it's a situation I'm not familiar with. I honestly can't recall who Tagibko was at that time, or whether he held an official position.
Member of the Ukrainian parliament.
Member of parliament.
Yes.
He was a people's representative. I don't see any reason why it couldn't work. But we're talking about
the golden opportunity.
But we are discussing matters right now that...
What is your opinion on the legal status of the right sector?
What is the legal status of the right sector?
Your overall stance. Legally, how is this structure referred to as part of the...
As part of what?
Ukraine.
Are you part of the Ukrainian armed forces? There is a unit from the right sector. It was.
Well, what was the legal status in 2014?
The Volunteer Corps is a unit of the Ukrainian armed forces.
What was the basis for this?
There might have been a political party.
I agree. What is your opinion on the U.S. Congress's decision to regard right sector as... No, it's
Why are you interested in the decisions of the U.S. Congress?
I made a mistake. The U.S. Congress is not discussing the right sector, but the Azov Battalion. The Azov Regiment is a prohibited organization in the United States. It has been a nationalist fascist organization since 2015.
Did you find it? Will you find it?
Let's try.
Azov Regiment.
Yes, Azov.
Prohibited.
The U.S. Congress's decision regarding Azov. I consider this organization to be fascist.
You receive an immediate response. It's not true that Azov is recognized as a terrorist organization in the United States and Japan, said Lavrov. You utilize information coming from the other side. We keep coming back to it. A person with a pro-Russian perspective will perceive exactly what they want to see.
Did Lavrov lie?
Lavrov? Absolutely, without a doubt he lied. You can read it for yourself. It's a verification of information. It's a perfectly normal story. See, here's the quote, and what follows is what actually happened. I mean, that's where the word spread. The Azov Battalion is not recognized as a terrorist organization in the United States and Japan. Lavrov distorted Zelensky's words, as Zelensky did not comment on the Azov Regiment in the CNN interview. Lavrov was likely referring to Zelensky's interview with Brat Baier on Fox News. Here's that passage. The journalist's questions were misunderstood. Lavrov's response was taken out of context.
You know,
one quote. The discussions on this topic are extremely difficult. Indeed. I know someone has added Azov to some list. But I know that they were excluded after Russia's full-scale invasion. If you ever verify this information, take note.
I'm not ruling it out.
Someone didn't understand the situation.
In my opinion, this is an absolutely fascist organization, which is unacceptable.
Why? Why a fascist organization?
Their slogans, their symbols. Look at the symbolism. Doesn't that remind you of anything? Azov. Furthermore, after what this organization has been doing in, let's say, in the temporarily occupied territories.
The letter I represents an idea. The letter N, nation, the concept of a nation. What don't you understand? The concept of a nation.
The concept of a nation. Okay, question retracted. Okay, concept of a nation.
The concept of a nation. Does it bother you that there is a nation that has its own ideology? I don't know.
But there's only one thing that personally bothers me. Those who disagree with this idea should be punished.
How? Not at all.
No ideological oppression.
No harassment. Many people express their dissent, but there is no harassment. There's some discussion, some debate, demagoguery and all that. But all of this should... The most important thing is that all of this stays within the legal boundaries of Ukraine. Please tell us more about the actions of the Azov Battalion.
Unfortunately, I can't tell you much because I am in the...
And I can not only tell you, but also show you the atrocities committed by the Russian military. The Ukrainian military was recorded firing at point-blank range. None of them even deny it. Casualties.
58 people were wounded and killed at the checkpoint in Shastinskoye.
It's not a matter of when the Russians got involved with Private Bank. Beneath our flag, they confronted a Ukrainian checkpoint and shot hundreds of Ukrainians. They were murdered. No, should I show you this?
Yes, you'll show it. I'm certain about it.
No, you're talking about...
Under the Ukrainian flag?
They hoisted our flag and covertly attacked the Ukrainian military.
The case is closed.
You don't understand. If Russia had not intervened in the situation unfolding in Ukraine, there wouldn't have been any casualties, problems, or anything of the sort. Life in your Donbass and Lugansk would continue as usual.
They would imprison dissenters, and many would be killed.
What? What for? Come on, hurry up, get it together. What would you go to jail for? What would you go to jail for? What?
You simply weren't present in 2014 when the advanced units of the so-called volunteer battalions were incorporated.
It isn't.
It isn't.
It isn't. What if those volunteer battalions had done that there? What they did when unlawful referendums on secession from Ukraine were conducted then?
If there were no volunteer battalions, would there still be a desire to secede?
Now we're going to debate about which came first, the chicken or the egg. But in this case, unlike the chicken and the egg, it's much clearer. If there were no separatist movements, there would be no volunteer battalions either. There would be nothing for them to do there. But no volunteer battalions. Before the separatist movements began, it wasn't there.
Would you agree that in 2014, a significant number of people in Ukrainian society disagreed with the Maidan protesters?
Even if I disagreed, I wouldn't pick up the Russian flag, wave it around, and call out for Putin. Because this is incorrect. It's a different country, a different president.
How did Berkut end up there? Orders?
That's the thing.
An order was placed. Logical?
It's not logical, that's for sure.
So the Berkut officers were under oath?
Yeah.
Does a military officer or an employee of the Ministry of Internal Affairs have the right to disobey an order?
Criminal order, yes.
As far as I know, orders from superiors are not negotiable.
In Russia. You're once again referring to the logic of Russia and what can be heard or seen there. Yes, I've even tried to read their laws. The concept of a criminal order indeed exists. But how they can disobey him, I don't understand. They're really unfortunate. No matter how many times I attempted to convince the prisoners that they weren't obligated to obey unlawful orders. It all boils down to the logic of morality. Don't shoot an unarmed person, even under orders, if you believe it's wrong. We have clear criteria for a criminal procedure that you cannot violate.
When Molotov cocktails were hurled at Berkut units, did such an event occur? Yes, it did.
You don't understand. After Berkut assaulted innocent individuals, people stood up and came out to protest. That's when it all started. Indeed, people have rights. If the people have delegated power, it does not mean that this power is limitless. That is infinite. Yes, and there's no doubt about it. The people have vested power in Yanukovych, and they can also revoke it.
The students who were attacked didn't break any rules at Maidan.
They didn't violate anything. Absolutely nothing was violated. Isn't that clear? Why this was done is unclear. They were not breaking any rules. They were standing under the stela and had the right to peacefully protest. Why was Berkut brought to a peaceful rally? The story begins, a completely peaceful rally. Berkut might have been dispatched there by someone intent on stirring up conflict. Because everything was done in front of the cameras. They were attacking people who hadn't done anything wrong. In other words, it was impossible to find a better reason to stir up the people, given the condition that there are many minors. They punish the children.
The occasion is a good one, I agree. Well done.
Who ordered the Burkett squad to do this?
About the rally.
Obama, Biden, Newland, who are they?
I disagree about the peaceful rally. Secondly, when rocks were hurled at the Berkut unit.
Then the stones flew.
Yes, the Berkut was in operation. Yes.
That's right.
When a bottle of gasoline is thrown at him, it's an attempt on his life. Do you agree?
You're attempting to guide me through a logical sequence, but you keep overlooking the initial step. One more time.
They are guilty of assaulting students.
Once again, the source of power in Ukraine is the people. This is not Russia. No, this isn't Russia. This isn't a country where the Tsar decrees and everyone is compelled to go and die. No, this is Ukraine. Things are different here. The source of authority here is the people. And if Berkut unlawfully assaults people, those people retaliate by throwing stones at them. That's it. Let this Berkut keep stirring things up, because law enforcement agencies should act appropriately, not as they do in Russia.
I support what the law states. I don't agree with what the people have decided at this point.
It's in the legislation.
Well,
why do you say? The image of intense resistance at Maidan was intended for the other side. All this violence, all these Molotov cocktails were necessary for the other side to spread the story of the fearsome Banderites to Crimea and your regions.
It turns out Russia has set a convoy of buses heading to Crimea on fire.
What I'm about to tell you now, you may never understand in your lifetime, because you keep resorting to such simplistic expressions. You might not understand, but I'll tell you the story of the other Berkut fighters. They didn't like it. They switched to other services. Some completely switched to security. Well, they're good, smart, healthy guys. What should they do? Yes. When the Russian invasion began, they took up arms and went to fight for Ukraine out of what is known as officer's honor. Did you swear allegiance to this country? And the one who defected sided with the Russians. His honor as an officer. You realize what he's done with it. It goes without saying. An officer takes an oath once and upholds it for the rest of his life. Even if you didn't like anything about Maidan, or our government, or anywhere else. You didn't have to chase after Russian tales and follow Russian narratives. And we would all live in peace and everything would be fine, you know?
I am Vladimir Anatolievich Antipov, born in 1986 in Lugansk. In the summer of 2014, he participated in the conflict on the side of the Luhansk People's Republic. I was sentenced to 8 years imprisonment under Articles 260 and 258 of the Criminal Code of Ukraine. Unfortunately, no, I have a strong desire to return home and fulfill my duty to my homeland. There's nothing to add. I request to be traded as soon as possible.
You're asking about the homeland. What is it?
Homeland, region of the country.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I was born in the Soviet Union.
Last name, first name, middle name?
Dmitry Sergeyevich Kulik.
Date of birth?
August 34th, 1987.
Where are you from?
The city of Odessa. Article 111. Part 2. Treason. 15 years.
Why did you get such a sentence?
A photo of the impact site.
You took a picture? You've been working?
I used to work next door at the motor pool. A shell struck. Essentially, it's an airplane manufacturing plant. I posted a picture in the work chat.
Did you receive your education in Russia?
Moscow State University of Economics, Statistics, and Informatics. Specialization, Civil Law.
Did you work in Bakhmut? Profession?
Absolutely. An electrician working at height. High voltage networks. Bakhmut, Seversk, drone.
Are you an expert in this?
Well, I'm not trained as an electrician, but I am one by profession.
Did you write a report?
Yeah, that's right.
Uh-huh. Another man, sentenced to 15 years for treason, is requesting a prisoner of war exchange. Do you want to go to Russia for an exchange program?
Absolutely right.
Should we talk to you?
Yes.
Do you give your voluntary consent for the publication of our video?
Yes.
Speech impediment?
Yes, my jaw is broken.
Jaw! Are you ready?
No, I'm from a juvenile detention center.
I see. And how long were you in the penal colony?
1 year and 9 months.
What were you in jail for?
Theft, Article 128.
How many times have you been convicted?
3.
3. Why did you even come here?
People from the Ministry of Defense visited the correctional facility. They promised that I would work for 6 months, then there would be a 2-week vacation, and after that, an official 1-year contract would be provided. We served for 6 months. Now, people are being enlisted for a year of service. The Ministry of Defense has mobilized them. Out of these 96 individuals, only 11 remain.
What do you have in mind?
They're the only ones alive.
Where do you get these numbers from?
I served with them.
Were they all in the same group?
Yes.
In your second assault company, huh? Can you tell us what happened, when it happened, and where it happened?
On the 10th of October, we set out to storm Krasnogorovka. We arrived there, and words fail to describe it. It was simply terrible.
What?
In the trenches lay the bodies of the fallen. And a few minutes later, 2 armored personnel carriers returned. Whoever had time to get into the APC has left. 24 men jumped into the armored personnel carriers.
Where did you go?
Backwards.
So they took people there and it was a slaughterhouse?
Yes.
What kind of weapons were used?
Everything.
Some people were picked up and taken away.
Yes.
How many people were still there when you left?
There are many people left there.
Did they all die there?
Yes.
Have you seen their bodies?
No, I didn't see their bodies. It's just that the one who was with them survived and later told me about it.
Well, that makes sense.
Then we set off. Well, we headed to Krasnogorsk. Then we were fired upon. I was the only one left in the armored personnel carrier. Everyone else had disembarked.
Okay, what about the others?
Everyone else went to different places. Then on the 26th, we launched another assault. We were simply told to take up positions in the trenches and await further instructions. We were all staffed, and there were 60 of us. We went back to Krasnogorovka.
You were aware of what was happening in Krasnogorovka, weren't you?
Well, we had commanders like that.
Why didn't you say no?
There's no way you can say no.
What would happen if you said no?
I don't know.
So there were so-called barrier detachments, and those who retreated were shot. Is that correct?
This incident was reported to us by another unit.
Were there any beatings?
There was no such thing.
Or were there simply no people who didn't want to fight?
No, I haven't seen that.
It's clear. So, you 60 people were transported to Krasnogorovka. Then what happened?
We were instructed to locate the trenches and await further instructions.
Yeah, fun in the trenches is a good one.
We arrived there in the morning. In the evening, we discovered trenches. Everyone dispersed to different locations. Only 2 of us remain. The rest have gone somewhere. I'm not sure who or where. There were also drones flying around.
Okay.
Then the drones appeared to become calm, and both of us proceeded together.
Where?
Well, as we were walking along, we came across another brigade. the 21st Brigade. There were probably 15 people there. We were also told to lie down, which we did. We moved forward with him. He was killed by shrapnel that struck him directly in the groin. I was left alone. And then...
That's a terrifying death, I suppose.
Scary, yeah.
Did he suffer for a long time?
No, all he managed to say was, "I'm injured, bandage my leg." And that was it.
Did he die instantly?
Yes. I sat for about 15 minutes, then lay down, smoked, and moved on, but I didn't know where I was heading. I see, there's a ditch up ahead. I approached the trench, and there. Ukrainians.
So,
that's how I was captured.
Didn't you shoot?
No.
Why?
I didn't even attempt to shoot or kill anyone.
What did you actually do there, in your opinion? Did you march as cannon fodder under bombardment?
Not exactly. I wasn't trying to kill or shoot anyone.
You're going to deny it because you're afraid of facing the consequences if you tell the truth, right?
No, honestly, I didn't kill or shoot anyone.
Okay. And I have only one question for you. Why did they die? You tell it like it is. Did they die for their country?
Yes.
So why would your country want them to perish?
I don't know. Well, whoever decided to go went.
No, it's understandable. What did you go there for?
For freedom.
But,
well, they just made a lot of promises.
So I suppose they died for the much promised, and not for their homeland too, right?
I guess.
If you were to die for a cause, what would it be?
For the motherland.
For the motherland?
For the motherland.
Why does your motherland need this?
I do not know. Well, they just made a lot of promises.
Promises mean little when it comes to the homeland.
We were assured that our records would be cleared.
It's comprehensible. Your departure for freedom, the promise of a clean criminal record, the assurance of a forgotten past, all make sense. But when you say that you were fighting for your homeland, I want to understand, what exactly is the benefit for your homeland in having you participate in this war? What is the benefit?
I can't say that. I can't say.
Would you go again if you knew what was going to happen beforehand?
No.
So the homeland doesn't need it anymore? For the motherland, right?
No, I wouldn't go again.
For the motherland? What's the need for this war?
Likely, nobody desires war.
Did Putin declare war? What you refer to as a special military operation?
Yes.
Well, does he need it for some reason?
I guess.
Why?
I don't know.
You would risk your life for something you don't understand and for promises made to you. Do you have any advice for the other inmates? Should they come here or not?
I've said before that you shouldn't do that. I've said it many times before. I'll say it again. You shouldn't.
Wouldn't you do it again?
No.
Okay, go ahead. So, hello. Turn on the video. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Well, talk to your son.
Hello, hi.
This is a brother.
Ah, brother.
How's it going?
A microphone is essential.
We're always waiting for your call.
The reason I can't call you is because you have no signal. I've been trying to call for probably 2 months now.
We haven't heard from you in 2 months.
How are you doing in general?
You look so good.
Uh-huh.
You've gained weight.
Yeah.
You're handsome.
Yes, thank you.
You've really gained weight.
Indeed.
Indeed, it's written all over your face.
Yes, yes, yes.
And you got a nice haircut.
Yeah, I've gained a lot of weight. Basically, the food here is good.
Are your legs okay?
Yes, I can walk. The only issue is that I can't lift my toe.
Let me talk to your sister.
Certainly.
I wanted to ask you, have you watched our latest video, the discussion?
Definitely. I've shared it with everyone, including my family, and I've also gone through and liked the comments.
What are your thoughts on the comments?
All the commentary there is against Russia. However, I was pleased to see that there were also comments expressing gratitude.
Yes, indeed, you've received an exceptional amount of support from our audience. That's quite rare, actually. But of course, there is and will always be criticism. Do you know why? Well, he didn't bring us balloons after all, right?
Yes, that's what Dmitry always says. We're invaders or something. Yes, we're invaders.
Yes, occupiers.
Yes, we are occupiers. That's why I don't even care, as they say about this.
Given that Raphael has been articulating well, you appear comfortable, and the audience has shown appreciation. It's for these reasons that I've asked him to extend the discussion. And moreover, we also have a very good reason. I just received a video that involves you, him and me. Shall we see? Let's do it.
You know what's interesting? I was watching the news recently, either yesterday or the day before, and it turns out that a group of mothers and wives of mobilized individuals is being led by a former employee of Navalny's headquarters in Batumi. That's it?
I wanted to see it.
Now.
Yes. We are about to present an exciting exclusive. Let's begin, starting with Zoom.
I am identified as an SBU agent, and Zolkin responds that he was dispatched by FSB agents.
Who is Zolkin? So, we just heard a particular woman say, "Ha ha ha, they labeled me as an SBU agent, I forwarded this to Zolkin, and he found it amusing." They think it's funny. Zolkin is a representative from the SBU who oversees the organization Soldiers' Mothers. And the woman in the audio recording is, "I covertly made this audio recording during a meeting with the organizers of Soldiers' Mothers of Russia." They are directly supervised by Zolkin and several SBU employees. Why? For instance, this woman's son went missing on the front lines, only to be discovered later as a member of a Ukrainian unit. However, they don't engage in combat there. He neither fights nor participates in raids under the terrorist organization led by Ilya Ponomarev. Instead, he is involved in ideological work. And so on. Zolkin is a notorious Ukrainian blogger who discloses the names of prisoners and conducts interviews with them on behalf of the SBU. He also oversees the operations of the Soldiers' Mothers group. I would like to ask, are you out of your minds, people who support these villains? Are you really backing them up? Here's the evidence. This is the work of the SBU.
I have a lot of things to say about it. What is your impression?
Who are these people anyway?
I'm uncertain why I named this video when Skype landed in the madhouse. I'm not sure who these people are, but it seems as if individuals in some sort of insane asylum have been given cell phones and can now communicate via video call. Firstly, this woman, in my opinion, was speaking to the FSB, if I heard correctly, not the SBU. So there he is, twisting the context of what she said to him. Secondly, I am criticized because I interview and identify Russian prisoners. Really, that's terrible. Terrible?
Contrarily, you're doing everything right to assure our citizens that our POWs, our boys, are there. You're providing their names. This allows them to confirm their identities.
Indeed. I'd like to tell those in the asylum, feel free to reveal our detainees' identities, interact with them, and showcase them too. In general, at best, we should publicize and properly publish a list of these prisoners, specifying exactly which camp they are in, as we have already done. With precise addresses, with specific details where you can send a package and where you can make a transfer. That's how it works, right?
Yes.
In Ukraine, it works. But in Russia, it doesn't function that way, guys. So you need to step out of your chaos, emerge from it, and understand who is the real troublemaker in this situation. Next, regarding the SBU and oversight of Russian mothers. Tell me, did I oversee or too much there?
No.
No?
Well, you see how you helped me today.
Can you please tell us how we contacted you today?
I've been meaning to pen down my thoughts to you for about a fortnight now.
How did you get my number? I'm your coordinator. That's probably why you have my number.
I guess.
Talk to me.
I wrote to you. I was scared. I didn't know which words to select, how to best articulate it. In reality, we haven't seen or heard from him for 2 months. It took me 2 weeks to find the right words, to ponder, and yet today I took the plunge.
But how did you obtain the number? They simply can't comprehend that we spoke to you last time.
Yes, I have your number. Let them come and see it. I still have Raphael's photos from when I even recall, we spoke on August 16th. I didn't delete anything. I still have them all.
When the renegade Zolkin initially reached out to your sibling, sent his picture, and permitted you to converse with him, you can still talk to your son.
Thank you.
Oh, you're a sibling.
I actually like you so much.
I'm trying.
Yes, yes.
Like this.
Could the fact that you can't even contact your mother be something that the FSB is already blocking?
I agree as well, because how does this occur?
This is how they block incoming traffic from Ukraine. Overall, it's pretty straightforward, but they go ahead and do it. They started by blocking regular numbers from Ukraine.
And why?
How?
Regular direct communication with relatives, as I have now.
At the start of the war, what did you experience? No casualties and absolutely no action, right?
After all,
people began to call us from Ukraine, informing us about the ongoing events. However, these calls were subsequently blocked. However, you see, I'm reaching out to you, providing you with an opportunity to talk. Yes, I'm a bit intrusive. Well, that is to say, this is Russia. Can you logically explain why they behave this way?
Say hello to Mom and everyone.
Yeah, I'll pass on a big hello from you to everyone. I'm glad we had a conversation and you're doing well. I will now send Vladimir my number, and you should note it down somewhere for yourself.
Okay.
And then I'll ask Vladimir to send me that link.
I'll call you another day. We'll discuss my package and other things. All right? All right. Goodbye. Kisses. Love you.
May I add 2 more cents, literally? You're not afraid to speak so candidly about your government.
About what?
You express various opinions about the government.
Do you think it's only me?
I don't know.
Why be scared? You know, initially we were scared, but now I feel like that's all there is. So what can they possibly do to me? They won't kill me. Do you think they might imprison me?
Yes.
Nowadays, Every other woman is facing this situation. My classmate's son has also gone missing. She can't get in touch with him, and she's been turned away from the military registration and enlistment office. She's bewildered, uncertain of her next move. She's already berating everyone. She's criticizing our leadership. She's also confused. We're conversing with her over the phone, and she's throwing slurs at everyone, including our top executives. Therefore, we are not alone anymore. Our numbers are increasing.
I understand. It happens. You know, you listen to people in the asylum, and they come up with all these great ideas and establish a precedent. That's good. That's it then. Send me your number.
I won't interrupt you. Vladimir, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Everything is fine. Everything is fine.
Good luck to you.
Goodbye. Your sister is brave.
Yeah.
Well, really?
Thank you.
Indeed, I'm concerned about her health, certainly. Especially after these discussions. Essentially, after the first one, they stopped visiting her. But who can tell?
I don't think anything will happen.
Where are you from?
From Bashkortostan.
Oh, that's Bashkortostan. Perhaps you have a bit more freedom there. It could be that the people are more unified. What I mean is, they won't allow harm to come to one another. Well, there's a possibility.
Based on the number of casualties, the number of people missing, and so on. But these are all just rumors, essentially. Every family has these.
It's not a big deal. You have the so-called Committee of Soldiers' Mothers there. I have not seen them specifically speak out against the special operation. They initially began discussing it vaguely. Then they were cornered. And now they are specifically pleading for their relatives. I mean, please bring my boy back. It's indeed true that all of this is happening. But bring my son back. That is, send the other boys. But bring my son back. And naturally, no one would want to return their sons. And others would be sent instead.
Yeah.
It's a pointless story. What else can you tell me?
Well, what can I tell you? Everything is fine here.
No, it's understandable that everything is fine. Perhaps you have some fresh thoughts about what transpired.
How to avoid returning to conflict.
Is it accurate to say that many people in your social circle were eager to go to war?
No, I'll tell you. Even the majority didn't want to go to war.
How many ideologues are there who still insist that we must go to war? I would go again. I would go to war again. How many of them are there?
At present in this place, I've observed around 5 such individuals here at the most.
I've observed this trend. They say this because they understand that this video will be viewed there, and they will have to return there. In this manner, they establish a reputation for themselves, an alibi. So they wouldn't be pushed too hard. They are prisoners of the Nazis. They can only think of one thing. What happens to them after they return home to seemingly kind people? Who will torment and manipulate them for 2 weeks before possibly letting them go? You're familiar with that process, aren't you?
Well, essentially, I've heard about it. But understanding comes from personal experience, and hearing is something entirely different. Yeah, the guys have been discussing it. There's even a man here who has undergone this procedure before and has returned again. I spoke with him once. He said he arrived in Moscow and was held for a week for questioning.
Did he come to Moscow? Was he allowed to go home?
No.
Here you go.
After that, he was sent back to the war.
Well, there are instances. There are indeed. I'll need to speak with him as well, if he's agreeable. When did he return?
Probably a month ago.
Overall, it's great. Everything is fine. Do you have anything to add on your own?
No.
No?
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
I was very happy to socialize.
Set up a sewing room. You remained silent about me, you didn't speak or reference me. That was the correct strategy. Because now you're going to face consequences.